All right, GM. So, going to look at some positioning data. Try and pick out a couple of the coins you've been looking at and update them for you. So, Ethereum, check back in here. Ethereum moving pretty much as I would expect. And I think when you look at the daily bands, it's getting close to them. Haven't touched them yet, and I don't think we necessarily will at this point. The way this is setting up, I wouldn't be surprised to see ETH move towards the highs again, because you've had that kind of first push, a second one. Wouldn't be surprised to see a third one before it then drops back into the bands, which would be like this red path that was drawn. Right, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that. However, the main path to focus on is this original blue path I drew. That was the move from here, take the highs, which it did. It didn't go as far as 4K, but it took the highs, and then back towards this 3580 pivot. I would say I'm still waiting one, maybe two more taps of that pivot. This could be where Ethereum chops for the summer or chops for a week or two. Don't know. The ETF filings are going ahead. The S1, so BlackRock's S1 and the rest of them, they're putting in their updated forms that they need to push through and have these ETFs approved. So I find it hard to imagine Ethereum not going higher as we go towards that time. It doesn't have to go like Bitcoin did. People are like, oh, it's going to go fucking mooning because people are expecting the ETF front run it again. Don't forget, it's been front run since October. So that doesn't have to happen. But I want to check positioning on Ethereum and I want to check positioning on Pepe. But first, Ondo. So what have we been talking about since Friday? Patience. Patience might be paying off here on Ondo soon. It's starting to move down following that path. And if it comes back towards previous all-time high and treats it as a range, holds that level, that'll set up potentially a good trade. So for Ondo, just time to wait. For Pepe, you can see quite a strong pullback already. And that's, to me, that probably ends the parabolic move on Pepe. As you see, a pretty strong loss of that level and a lack of demand. And what did I say yesterday? Talked about this. This is really important if you're using volume profile, and hopefully this helps many of you to take these trades. The value area. Broke out of the value area, got back inside. I said it on yesterday's stream or yesterday's video. If you fall back inside that value area after breaking out of it, it's not good. You go to the other side. What does it do? Down to the other side. Why? Because that is the equivalent of a false breakout. And if it's a false breakout and you fail, where do you go? Generally, back to the other side. So again, Pepe is one to just wait. I don't think this is going to turn around V-reverse and just moon for you. I think it's going to chop and chop and chop. It might not even move as quickly as this, but don't forget how much momentum it had, how much hype it had, and how good the chart is on a high time frame. Weekly chart, still strong. Daily chart, still near the bands. So Pepe is the one to buy on the dip if you get that type of decent setup. The volume on these selling candles is nothing above average. So it's just flushing out the people who are too long. Really simple. And that's what I want to look at here with Pepe. And we'll look at some of the positioning data. We'll look at that funding rate, spot, and stable coins. Here we go. CVD spot doesn't show up because I'll use both. I'll go to, there we go. All right. Positioning, Binance and Bybit. So on the way up here, Pepe's positioning has just been rolling over. Funding rate spiked positive. But the main part here that was given a clear cause for concern is we had a spike of funding when it had its big breakout. That's fine, as long as price continues. Price then continued to go higher, even as funding was low, neutral or negative. Or not neutral or negative, sorry, neutral or slightly positive. And then, what do we see? As Pepe had topped, right, and price was no longer going up, funding was elevated. So you have, from being a spot-led market, you now have a futures-led market, and price is not respecting it. And that just means, very simply, longs are offside, right? Longs are too dominant here. Longs are really just trapped, and it's flushing some out now. So probably taking out most of that early leverage. 21%, like 20% set off already is decent. And we'll see how it goes with the next phase, the next move. I'm going to check over here on Velo. You can see a little bit of different data. Right. You can see this. So the clearest is the spot premium, which Pepe used to have, right? There was a pretty consistent spot premium, tiny perp premium, slight perp premium. Then, boom, away it goes. The speculation begins, and Pepe stops having any kind of spot premium and really just moves into a perpetual dominated market, which is totally fine because that's how these markets move once they go into impulsive phases. But, and this is the number one thing you need to focus on, price is going up. You've then seen price go down for several days, and yet these conditions have persisted. We still have that spot discount per premium. And not only that, but it's increasing, right? So people are long, they're staying long, and they're trying to long their longs. That's not really what you want to see. If there's any decent kind of higher liquidations, it would be a good sign. There's a little bit here of long liquidations. That's fine. Open interest is sort of, not really moving down with price. Open interest is staying relatively stagnant as price declines, which can be a good thing or a bad thing. So if you're looking here at OI, it's not diverging yet because OI is down as price is down, but it's quite clearly diverging if you drag from here. So if you drag from there after the first push, price is down and open interest is actually up. So that's a divergence. With price moving down, that's a bad thing. It would tell me that people are long or continuing to stay long or longing their longs even as price goes against them. But if Pepe is able to build a base, right, if Pepe is able to stop the decline and start to go sideways, and that remains, that divergence can be quite bullish. It means positions have been built and held, and then price starts to move in favor of bulls. That's when you can see a bigger move. So you don't want to step in front of it right now. You want to wait for signs of an uptrend, and if they do present, it'd be a good spot for Pepe. I think right now, though, it's in a sell-off phase, and it's going to keep chopping around until the late longs have got themselves stopped out or liquidated. Ondo, don't need to really check the data. Ondo's a pretty simple price action one. And then Ethereum, the other one I talked about. I think Ethereum's really simple in terms of there's a lot of positioning built up. It all built up on the moment of the announcement, and it hasn't rolled off yet. That's to be expected, right? You would expect that with Ethereum's news that there's a lot more positions that open now, and they're not going to close, at least until the ETFs go live. So will you be able to squeeze those people out? I wouldn't necessarily say so. There is one thing, though, that you want to keep an eye on. There's two things, obviously, on CoinGlass. You want to look at the margin. So I'll do that really quickly. The margin debt that we do, just as a daily thing. The borrow rates continue to rise, even as price doesn't. So it's a slight concern. Like, it's nowhere near worrying levels. Obviously, when you zoom out 24-hour, you can see this. Borrowing rates are usually way, way higher. So that's no major concern there. But what is a concern to me is that CME are not adding to Ethereum. In fact, CME futures are closing at a faster rate than any. Open interest drop on CME 6%. Binance, it's flat. Bybit down 8%, that's a lot. OKX down 0.3%, but CME and BitGet up 8%. So the crypto exchanges are either staying in Ethereum, so there's no drop in open interest, or they're adding, and the BitGet one is just to kind of offset the Bybit one. And the CME, the one that matters, this is supposed to be the ETH ETF, Wall Street chasing it, blah blah blah, and they are closing positions. That is not, and that is completely counter to the trend that you saw for Bitcoin in the lead up to Bitcoin's ETF. So why is that? Well, maybe there's just not that much interest on Wall Street for Ethereum. Or maybe it's just a short-term thing. If we zoom into the 4 hour, maybe it's just a short-term thing. But I looked at this last night over here. I was looking at this yesterday after the stream, and I noticed you can see very clearly the slope, right? The yellow slope is the price line and the green is the open interest. So you can see how they follow each other fairly closely in a pretty balanced market. And then suddenly, yesterday, you have this big drop off of open interest, even as price doesn't. And then you just have an absolute fucking collapse of it here. Why would they be exiting? Like, why would people in the CME be exiting positions before the ETH ETF? That tells me it's more of a, at least this cohort who are doing this is more of a sell the news. And they're not even waiting for the news, they're just selling. Because maybe they got long Ethereum and the 3200 or whatever, and they're just getting out. It doesn't matter. It could be taking profit, they could be actually exiting at a loss, you don't know. But the biggest, difference is Bitcoin did not do that. So whenever Bitcoin CME futures were rising in anticipation of the ETF, we didn't see that. When we had this, the fake news move over here in October, so Bitcoin's price went up on the big spike, and CME futures open interest just went up. Every single day, it was just rising. It was just rising. It was rising or flat. It was rising, 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 like all the way. And in line with price. So it's only been a day or two. It's not really, it's a little bit too early still to say. But that's definitely something to keep an eye on. You would expect to see CME futures open interest growing for Ethereum if there is enough anticipation on Wall Street of the Ethereum ETF. And if not, maybe it's telling us. The thing that I've suggested for a long time and kind of expected is that they don't really care that much. And a second ETF will be fine, it will be good, but it might not be as bullish as people expect. And it's all about expectations and reality. So we'll see how that goes. All right. That's it. GM. See you later on the live stream, 4 p.m. No, not 4 p.m. Don't know exactly what time, but I'll tell you well in advance. GM.